but I just imagine like campaigns explained poorly is like shady rich dude wants to melt stairs.
Hello, and welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we explore fictional worlds and civilizations right from the comfort of our own table. I am Sam, and once again, schedules and dumb things prevented me from playing Pathfinder. But, as a follow-up from our last episode, I did find time to watch the 1997 classic Anastasia.
Oh my gosh.
And after watching that movie and then also doing all of the research for the last episode, I was like, this is even more wildly inaccurate than I remember.
Yeah.
Was the movie or Pathfinder more accurate?
Weirdly, I think Pathfinder was more accurate. Up until the part that, you go to a different planet, but
That's
it's
fair.
fine.
But that's very hand waveable.
Yeah.
I'm Ryan. I also did not play any games last week. I did spend a little bit of time specking out a division in Lancer.
Ooh.
World building only, not helpful in any way, shape, or form from a mechanical side, but I made numbers for all the different companies, because that's what I do when I'm sitting upstairs waiting for my daughter to fall asleep at 9:30 at night sometimes.
That's fair. And if you don't know what Lancer is, it's kind of like a mech RPG. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah, good fun.
You build your pilot, you build your mech. We did a little bit of it a few years back.
Yeah.
And I'm Tyler, and I did play Pathfinder this week.
Good job.
On my Monday group, I had another guest show up. My buddy Lance, who I've been talking to about Pathfinder in general. He ended up running the beginner box previously for a group of friends, but kind of wanted to see how a session worked out. So he joined as a character named Grandma Gertrude.
Okay.
Who was a cleric of Caden Kellid, which was great. But yeah, that group is just growing and weaving and
We have
bobbing.
to spin them out soon.
Yeah, they already spun out once. That one hasn't gone super consistent, but right now it's kind of a drop in, drop out.
Fair.
Tyler's just out here spreading the good word
I
of
was gonna say,
Pathfinder.
Have you heard? I am very much a Pathfinder apologist, so that's fair.
Apologist.
All right, so we do have to also revisit last week's episode with our things we misspoke. And by things we misspoke, it's things I misspoke.
You did a good job, honestly.
Well, so the one part that was great listening back to it was Tyler corrected me on one of the pronunciations, and I was like, yes, great, got it. And then incorrect the entire rest of the episode. So Tyler, please say how I am supposed to say the word.
It is Yadwiga.
Yadwiga.
Yes. I was thinking about it in my head last episode, and after Sam said it the second time, like, wrong, I'm like, whatever. She's going to move on soon. And then she said it about 10 more times, and I'm like, okay, we got to address it now.
I practiced it in my head the wrong way, and then it was like, correction, sure. Brain did not compute.
I feel like I should make a 2-second video of just you saying Yadwiga and somehow get it on the Pathfinder wiki as the official pronunciation video.
Yadwiga.
Yadwiga.
Spoken by a true guide of the Golarion. Nice.
So I think that was the only thing that was glaringly incorrect. So that's all we have on things we misspoke. So we will jump back into our travels today, and Tyler is taking us slightly farther northeast-ish.
Yeah, it's if we're kind of coming around the north side of the Saga lands, we've worked our way up through Varissia into the land of the Lenorm Kings, over across the top to Irison, and now we are ending up in the realm of the Mammoth Lords. As part of this, and as a note, I forgot about this last episode, but I was chatting with somebody on Instagram, and they were asking about the visual map of where we are.
Sure.
So I think one thing we're going to try to put up on our website after this is kind of a marker on each of our pages to show where we are and where we've been.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, now I just want to get like an actual map and like hang it up in our house and like pin where
You could use the campaign. I have the map of Avestan.
That's
Avestan
true.
from
We need a
the
nicer
campaign.
one.
I say that's like a $3 print from Office
Ouch,
Max. but-
ouch. Did you hear how Tyler just insulted your map?
It was,
The Staples guy also thought that.
is that what it was? Staples? Yeah.
Yes.
Side story, whoever I picked that up from really judged me for printing an RPG map in architecture print.
Hey,
But it worked out.
look.
I could
anyway.
always paint one like I did for Chad's World that
There you
one
go.
time.
Oh, yeah,
so.
that's true. Anyway, so we are kind of rounding out our travel of the Saga lands in the realm of the Mammoth Lords. Like I said, we have Irison to our west, we have Mendev to the east, and we have Belkzen to the south. And then we are kind of near the crown of the world. Like we kind of mentioned, if you go north, the realm of the Mammoth Lords actually connects to the Path of Agenhay, which goes over to Tian Sha. Kind of level setting of where we're at. So the interesting thing about the realm of the Mammoth Lords is it kind of starts, like most countries we've talked about in Avestan, with the Kellids.
The Kellids.
The Kellids!
So as a quick refresher, remember the Kellids are kind of the original natives of Avestan before the spread of the Taldan Empire. Kellids kind of have a more tribal culture. They value close-knit ties to family and their tribe, and they're also nomadic. So they generally kind of keep what they can carry with them and are always prepped to pack up and move. And, you know, as a tribe, they kind of move around. So there's not a lot of cities built in Kellid territory.
Sure.
So I wanted to cover a little bit of the, you know, different Kellid peoples, since it kind of is a broad brush category of people for people tied together by a shared language. So there are 4 main Kellid peoples. You have the Isgari, which we've talked about a decent bit. They are the predominant Kellid ethnic group in southern Avestan. They were absorbed mostly by Taldans and Shalaxians, but they kind of still hold on to their cultural practices.
Sure.
You have the Palakari, which is kind of a unique blend of Taldan and Kellid. They make up the majority of the Druman people, which we've talked about. And they kind of identify more as Taldan than they do Kellid. Then you have the Sarkorians, which we haven't hit yet, but they are the survivors of Old Sarkoris, which we will talk about when we talk about the World Wound and Mendev. As we travel further east.
Ooh.
And they come up a little bit in this episode as well.
Okay.
That finally brings us to the Yerktiri.
Yerktiri. Okay.
Which is the embodiment. If you had an embodiment of Kellid culture to outsiders, the Yerktiri people are the ones who live in the realm of the Mammoth Lords. And they are kind of the example of Kellids. And guys, we're going to start off with some really good best news. The reason that they're the embodiment of Kellid culture is because they're the only group of Kellids that are, for the most part, untouched by outsiders.
Woo!
Justice for the Kellids!
They did it!
Yes. So we get to talk about Kellids for the most part, and not how they were explored all over.
Aww, yay!
Huzzah!
Yeah, like I said, we're in the realm of the Mammoth Lords. It's a timeless place of harsh weather, megafauna, and nomadic hunter-gatherers.
And what's a megafauna?
A megafauna is like the Ice Age / dinosaur level of creatures. So like a megalodon is a big old shark.
Okay.
A woolly mammoth is a big old elephant.
Cool.
Okay.
A saber-toothed tiger is a big old tiger. Like megafauna is kind of the ancient creatures that were descendants,
Precursors.
ancestors, yeah, precursors to the ones we see today. But
They grew them big back then.
They grew them big. Despite the name, the realm of the Mammoth Lords is not like the land of the Lenorm Kings, where you don't have to go out and kill a mammoth to become a Mammoth Lord.
Well, that's good.
Yes. You know, we joked that we kind of mixed up the names, and they are similar, but their cultures couldn't be farther apart, besides, you know, being in a place that is cold and sad.
It's just because they have that like formulaic titling of like the location. It's like every young adult novel.
Yeah.
Like, they all are the Okay.
Yes, we are in the realm of the Mammoth Lords. And more specifically, or generally, the term Mammoth Lord itself is not actually a rank of a person, but it kind of collectively refers to all the nomadic tribal groups themselves. Though, we'll talk about it a little bit in the spoiler guide, but you can get the title of Mammoth Lord. So there's one thing I'm not entirely sure of.
As like an archetype or?
Just in general as a story beat. And I'm not sure if it's like both a title and a generic. Unsure. Okay. I couldn't quite figure that out whether...
We're all Mammoth Lords.
We're all Mammoth
Lords. But you're a Mammoth Lord.
Yes. Yeah. Not totally sure about that. But for the most part, it kind of... The Mammoth Lords are the groups of nomadic Kellids.
Okay, yeah.
So, regardless of who the name actually refers to, the term Mammoth Lord comes from the Kellids of the area mastering the roaming woolly mammoths and other megafauna, which they use as protectors, mounts, and war engines, which sounds kind of awesome.
Do they ride the woolly mammoths?
They do.
Yes.
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 So the Mammoth Lords comprise of all the different Kellid tribes. The tribes themselves can be as small as a few families. And these tribes then form larger groups called followings, which can number in the hundreds of tribes.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
It's kind of like a confederacy, kind of?
Kind of, yeah. You basically... People will create followings around leaders if you're a very powerful or kind of like how in the land of the Lenorm kings, people build societies around like the kings.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same where people will kind of build followings around leaders.
Okay.
And these leaders are called herders, which are the particularly powerful warriors or leaders.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, they're kind of the leaders, protectors. Since they're nomadic, they kind of set the trails because as the Mammoth Lords, they're hunters. They have to follow the packs of animals because that's kind of their food source.
Okay.
We are still in the tundra. Plants do grow somewhat. It's not as bad as Irison. There are seasons, but just not great seasons.
You're not like settling down and doing agriculture.
Yeah. You're kind of following, the herds.
Sure.
I was also imagining for a moment, this is incorrect, but like when you said megafauna, I was also imagining like megaflora. Like, oh, you just pop in and it's like these trees are huge.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's correct.
Maybe in other parts of Golarion, but this one is more the megafauna situation rather than the megaflora.
Sorry, plants, you all have to be regular sized.
You are the medium-sized flora. So people become herders through acts of great courage, strength, and guile, and then are generally backed by the most prominent family in a following. So it's kind of you're kind of elevated to the position based on your actions and then the backing of a strong
You gotta have
family.
some influence from people.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's not just like a soul act.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't just like come and say, I'm taking over now. You build the following with your influence.
Okay.
You don't just, force it. Obviously, the more powerful a herder, the more likely they are to have massive followings.
Sure.
So if you're weaker, you might have, a few tribes here and there. But like I said, you can build up to hundreds.
My mom will vouch for me.
Right. Mom says I'm great. So if a herder dies, the following will either choose a new leader, they join another following, or they kind of break back into smaller tribes until another leader rises up. Since they're not in a specific place, it's easy to kind of like part separate ways, move on, go from there.
It feels very organic.
Yeah. Just like it makes sense for now. In a generation, it might not make sense. So it's kind of good for that. Turnover of the herders is pretty high because the aforementioned acts of bravery, heroism, and guile.
Oh.
Sure.
So yeah, the reason to become a herder is also the leading cause of death.
Awkward.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. The other position of leadership is called a blood speaker. So where the herder's kind of like the main leader, the blood speaker's kind of more of like the wise kind of shaman and mediator between the different tribes and their deities. They also kind of act as the tribe historians.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of like how the followings work, how Mammoth Lords kind of come about. So let's take a step back and wonder how exactly did this country end up with a large amount of megafauna such as the mammoths, mastodons, and saber-toothed tigers anyway.
Right, because most places don't have
you're not
those
like
walking
you're not
around.
chilling in Irison with
I've stopped asking why. It's all weird.
Yeah, this is kind of a part about Pathfinder I love, that they built Golarion as a kitchen sink, so you can kind of find an adventure for anything.
Right.
But they have the reasoning behind it. The answer to this question we have is probably that they came from underground.
Oh.
So we talked about the Darklands.
Yep.
And specifically a place called Deep Tolgoth,
Mm.
We're not going to spend too much time here. We're definitely going to cover the Darklands in a different episode. But Deep Talgoth is the northernmost region of the deepest layer of the Darklands, called Orv.
Sure.
So if you have the Darklands, remember, this is kind of the world under the world.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They have tunnels and stuff underneath all over Avestan, all over Garund. They all kind of connect, and they're kind of different, 3 main layers of Darklands, and this one is the deepest.
Okay.
Okay.
And Deep Talgoth is like the northern part of that layer, which just happens to kind of span a lot of the Saga lands. It kind of works under Iristan and Lenorm Kings over like to Mendev.
Okay.
It's the deep, deep basement under the Saga lands.
Yeah, basically. Okay. And in Deep Talgoth live massive creatures like dinosaurs, gigantic vermin, things called froghemoths, which are basically huge bipedal frogs with tentacles.
Don't like that.
Don't like that.
The giant frog thing sounded okay until we got to tentacles.
Yeah.
No, even the giant frog thing. Mm-mm.
Think about
a frog that can like tongue grab you is terrifying.
I mean, I don't want that to happen, so.
Also, I just like the first person who named it a froghemoth. Like, it's like a behemoth. It's a frog. It's a froghemoth.
I feel like I was like picturing Kermit first, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. And then it got weird.
That's fair. That's fair. So, it's believed that this thing on the surface called the Earth Navel was once connected to Deep Talgoth.
I'm sorry, the Earth Navel?
The
belly button of the Earth?
The belly button of the Earth. So it's basically kind of a crevice in the Tusk Mountains that leads to kind of the Darklands, or is thought to lead there. It is lined with bones of ancient beasts and tribal warriors.
Huh.
And the tunnels that it leads down to have since collapsed, but it's been theorized that at some point it connected all the way down to Deep Talgoth, which is how the creatures came up.
Look,
anyway.
Someone was having way too much fun with this when they decided that the Earth belly button is how creatures got up from
we have the Earth
way
Navel,
down beneath.
We have the World Wound.
The planet is full of body parts.
Yes.
In weird ways.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the next thing I haven't talked about, I've been talking about kind of the high level. We need to know, what year is it?
True.
So
that would be helpful.
We're talking about woolly mammoths. We're talking about tribal Kellids. What I haven't talked is about when all this is happening. Well, the answer is pick a time. They have been hunting on this land, following these huge beasts, and generally kind of doing their thing for millennia. Unlike other places that have kind of industrialized, because the Kellids have their kind of natural nomadic nature and haven't really had much outside influence, and there is a general lack of colonizers, the history is kind of less filled with typical betrayal and political intrigue, and time just kind of moves slowly. So how they were doing it 1,000 years ago is kind of how they're doing it today.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I was out exploring and I saw a froghemoth, I'd be like, nope, we can put a city somewhere else. Nope, don't need that.
Yeah, so they've been kind of untouched. You can go into this modern day and still see the nomadic tribes doing their thing. Like I said, the Kellids have just been Kelliding the whole time. Which
it's like the Middle Ages. Like, that's a huge time period, and like 2 things happened.
Yeah.
Just like hand wave it away.
Yeah. Like, yeah, well, we got this and this, but that was a long time. So
well, clearly it's working. Like they've sustained that lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, it works for them. They're kind of doing their thing. So like not a lot of things happen in history. There are a few big events like the Middle Ages. So then rather than, talk about the whole history, which again, not much happens. Instead, in true Kellid fashion, we're just going to talk about the stuff the Kellids have had to deal with over the years.
Yeah.
They haven't been colonized, but they still have to deal with some crap.
Of course.
Because you're not going to be a Kellid if you don't have some adversity.
Well, sure.
One of the things we just talked about is the Winter Witches. Over the past 1,400 years, the Winter Witches have really thought about expanding territory. And what better place to do it in a place that doesn't really have set cities. So
yeah,
the Mammoth Lords have had to, push back all the greedy witches.
Ouch.
So they've had to kind of push them back and have been largely successful. Like I said earlier, you have the orcs to the south of Belkson.
Yes, I love the orcs.
Right? And in this case, unlike other situations, other episodes where we've had the orcs be kind of the wall when exploration has stopped.
Sure.
In this case, they're kind of the raiders. So they like to send raiders into the Mammoth Lord's land to capture some of the megafauna to use for their war machines.
Sure.
I mean, I can't blame them.
Yeah, it's like, look, you got some primo mammoths up there that we're going to take to turn into stuff. But again, since generally these types of creatures are the ones that Mammoth Lords survive on, they've kind of had to push the orcs back as well and have been pretty successful. The nice thing is like there can be many different, over the history, there have been, many different followings, but they all kind of have this internal agreement to like help fight the outsiders.
Okay.
So they have to deal with a lot from the outside that they don't really spend as much time inner squabbling.
Yeah. I mean, so far it sounds like war mammoths are a legitimate defense strategy.
Yeah, it's worked pretty well so far. One of the biggest threats to the Mammoth Lords came from the east. We talk about friend of the pod, Aridin.
Yep.
And while he is not worshipped by any of the Kellids, the year of his death, #4606, never forget, still brought great strife to the Mammoth Lords in the form of the World Wound that opened up in Sarkoris. I did not know that it happened at the same time.
Yep.
So at his death, the world opened up and demons started pouring out into the country.
Womp womp.
Yeah. So they've had to deal with that after the Sarkorians. Sarkorians?
Sure.
Yeah. So the Sarkorians, used to be kind of just a tribal group of Kellids as well, but then they kind of got wrecked, so eaten by demons. So where the Mammoth Lords had peers over to their east, now they have demons just coming over their borders.
Gross.
That's a downer.
Yeah, a lot of the followings actually went and joined the Crusades. So you see,
okay.
Yeah, so you have the Mendevian Crusaders. Some of the Mammoth Lords have also gone over to help fight against the demons, because obviously running over the Mammoth Lord's realm with demonic influence is not great.
That is a really cool Crusader army.
Right?
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm just picturing like your medieval Crusaders, except they're riding mammoths.
Yeah, the World Wound, that's been a little bit rough over history because from the south, from the east, from the west, they've just had a lot of stuff to deal with.
But they're able to maintain borders, though, which I think is actually, like, pretty impressive when you think about, like, a nomadic people. They're able to, like, come together to keep those same borders, though.
Yeah. It's like, they have enough trails that lead across as they're, like, traveling and doing that they're able to kind of fight back the situations. They're not going to... They haven't come back and been like, wait, my land got, taken over.
Yeah, they always do a good job.
Yeah, so they do have kind of one internal enemy that they have to deal with, and that's the frost giants.
Ooh.
So frost giants are obviously giants who really like the cold.
Which seems like they would be right at home up here.
They are right at home near the crown of the world and the kind of tundras.
Okay.
So it's kind of a weird situation. I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Oh, okay.
So The Mammoth Lords have kind of had a contradictory relationship with the Frost Giants. For ages, they have fought back and forth. The Mammoth Lords are doing their thing. The Frost Giants want the land and kind of want them to be gone. So, like, normal internal power struggle things.
Sure.
However, the Mammoth Lords are also known to take and capture giant children. So, giant children, not large children.
Oh, they like raid and take hostages, basically.
Yeah, but they raise them as their own. So, and it's not just like their trophies or anything, even though having like giants in your tribe is a sign of power, but they're like full honored members of the tribe. Like they treat them as equals, and many of the giants end up just identifying with the tribe they're part of and like become part of the family. Which I mean,
I guess if you're gonna get kidnapped, I'd rather be kidnapped and then be a part of the family than kidnapped and be an indentured servant.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird, because obviously the result of that, to get them into the family, they had to kill their kill probably their parents.
Yeah.
So on one hand, you're like, this is still kind of horrifying, but like, yeah, it's just kind of weird.
So it's low on the horror scale.
Yeah, it's just kind of like. It's like, like
it's like not great, but there also appears to be like an honor code about it. So you're like, okay, well, at least there are rules for this.
Yeah. So So they have an interesting relationship with the frost giants.
Okay.
That kind of brings us a little bit to current day. Like I said, there's not too much written about this realm since not a lot has happened. There's not much history. There's no kind of cities. There's a few like trade cities, mostly for outsiders. Like there's one up north called Ice Stair. That is the one that kind of connects over to Tian Sha. So that's a trade city. But other than that, not a lot has happened.
They're just doing their thing.
They're just doing their thing. But we're kind of at an interesting point in time. Let's talk a little bit about current day because it's in a weird place. We talked about an Irison, Queen Anastasia to the west. With her rise over the past 10 years, the thirst for expansion has not happened too much.
She's not a power-hungry, crazy person.
Yeah, so they haven't had to like fight back the Irisinians.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Wait, they're not called Irisinians.
Ooh.
They're called Yadwiga.
Yadwiga. That's true. They're called the Yadwiga. Good call. It's actually pronounced. No, I'm kidding.
Dang it.
And then to the south, the orcs, since Tar-Baphon came back, who I think we've mentioned previously, but basically big bad undead guy.
Sure.
Since the orcs kind of rebuffed his rise and said we weren't going to fight for him like they had in the past, it seems they're kind of on the brink of transitioning away from their warlike lifestyle, which cuts down on the raiding parties. And to the east, what are we, 5 years ago? 5 years ago in 4718, the World Wound closed.
Mm-hmm.
So the number of demons coming across the border is no longer a like unending tide. It's like getting cut down. So even the frost giants have seemed to kind of fade from view, leaving an interesting kind of void in the country. Because even though they're kind of doing their thing, they've kind of lived off protecting their land, right?
Yeah, like like they've always had a constant crisis to rally.
Yeah. So there's already kind of some uptick between some of the more violent-minded followings. Remember, you have to have your acts of bravery and heroism. And if you don't have a lot of outsiders...
How shall I be courageous when there's nothing to fight against?
Yeah, so now they're kind of looking inward to fight each other, which is, kind of interesting to see how that goes because they're no longer kind of a unified, quote-unquote, force against the outsiders. So it's actually something that the Frost Giants are hoping for. The most prominent Frost Giant, Jarl Nargarok. He was the one who ordered his people to head up into the Tusk Mountains and lay low.
Ooh, let them fight.
Yeah, and so he's basically hoping that with a lack of conflict, either the Mammoth Lords will fight each other and weaken each other, or just kind of become overconfident and lazy and wait for the right time to just like come through and strike.
Ah, smart Frost Giants. Okay.
Oh, Jarl.
I think Jarl might be a title.
Oh,
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, so it's the title Jarl.
Oh.
Nargarok. But anyway, so that's kind of it. Like, bit of a shorter episode. We will talk a little bit more about recent events in the spoiler guide episode that's releasing at the same time. But for the up-to-date, here's where we're at now without spoiling anything. It's for the most part pretty fine. There's some rumblings and some worries about, what could happen between the tribes, but other than that, we'll just kind of see what happens.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks, Tyler. We are going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors, and then we will be back with a campaign and a character.
Crikey! Have a look at this! What a beautiful mammoth! Have a look at his tusks. This guy has a great set, and they need them given the other wildlife here in the realm of the Mammoth Lords. When not working with their humans, these mammoths rely on their massive strength and sharp tusks to keep other predators at bay. Right, over there I see a pod of velociraptors surrounded by a young brontosaurus. If we get down on our bellies and crawl up, we can get right smack in the middle of the action. Just one of those incredible things you can see if you join me on Mammoth Tours.
And And welcome back. I know that makes me want to put on a giant warm coat and head off to the tundra to go learn some stuff.
That's true. That's kind of what we're doing now.
It is. It is. Just in our basement, which
Yes.
is not as cold.
That's true.
Anyway. On to campaigns.
Campaigns.
We are going to go somewhere cold. Yay.
Let's do it.
I told you I like the cold.
Well, good for Ryan.
I was just shaking his head
not feeling great
so
about this.
despondently at me.
It's
I like
fine.
the fall. Okay, but for this, we are going to go to Ice Stair, which Tyler mentioned earlier. So Ice Stair is at the northern part of the realm of the Mammoth Lords, and it is called Ice Stair because there is a giant staircase made of ice.
That's pretty cool.
Staircase made of ice. I
So
call it ice
this
stair.
is this is how you get from the ground essentially up into the crown of the world, is you have to go up this giant staircase.
Sure.
I mean, the staircase in itself is very cool. They have like carved it out of ice and then put like volcanic rock on the steps
That's
so that
kinda
you
cool.
can like climb up it.
I guess that makes sense because the stairs made of ice would not be very climbable.
You just see a bunch of
And
people
slip
like
and fall.
flopping their way down the stairs.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So like part of the commerce of this town is maintaining
Mm-hmm.
the staircase.
Right.
The other part of this is its major trade, right?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to take that shortcut up over to the other side of the world,
Mhm.
you come through here. So that's where we're going to pick up our party. My vision for the party for this campaign is you guys are all muscle for hire to help people take whatever tour they want up into the crown of the world.
Okay.
Are we Sherpas?
A little bit. So you might be hired to like protect a trade caravan. You might be
Okay.
hired to go get goods for someone and bring it back.
Sure.
You might be hired to provide defense around the staircase should it be needed. So you are going to get a request from a very fabulous rich man who wants to see the crown of the world, but he is going to need a whole party to protect him and his very wealthy self because he's so important.
Of course.
Rich people climbing Everest vibes.
A little bit. However, the twist for the campaign is going to be, what is this guy actually after with the crown of the world or Ice Stair? And it is not just to go see some sights and check out some ice. He has some nefarious motivations. And one of those nefarious motivations is melting the stair.
Ooh.
How dare he?
He wants to cut off trade and control it. So the party is going to either have to stop him. There's going to be some magical things. They have to figure out maybe what he's doing. If they figure it out earlier on, there might be some different options versus, just having to end up in an icy combat situation or chasing this man down across the crown of the world if he's trying to escape.
Okay.
So that's going to be the setup and the initial hook.
I obviously this is like a more kind of intense campaign, but I just imagine like campaigns explained poorly is like shady rich dude wants to melt stairs.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's like we gotta stop him. We're like,
Yeah.
guy just wants to melt some stairs.
I mean, it sounds like if you melted the stairs, you would like collapse the economy.
that's true, and maybe cause some avalanches.
Yeah.
No, I like it. That seems like a fun kind of adventure to.
Okay.
That starts off as just kind of like, oh, yeah, you're doing normal escort stuff to, oh, this guy's doing what now?
Sir, what are we doing?
Rich people be crazy. What?
Okay. Okay. This works. This works.
Okay.
So I have built a goblin friend.
Yes.
Okay.
His name is Reginald Borug III.
Oh, Reggie.
Yeah, Reggie the goblin friend.
Is he the rich dude? Which
Stop.
Twist. He's the rich one. No, he is a big game hunter and
Okay.
also like an escorter, right? He likes
Okay.
Yeah.
He likes to take money to go take people out on hunts. He's from a long line of the Borg clan. He's the only one left of the Borg clan.
Aw, poor
He
dude.
has 3 prosthetic limbs that he lost in big
Oh
game
my
hunting accidents.
Gosh.
Amazing.
and I gave him every possible opportunity to blow up his firearm as a gunslinger as possible. So like every single feat or skill that allowed him to, like if you nat 1, your gun blows up. If you nat 1, like something bad happens. He has all of those.
Is he good at his job?
I mean, he's survived this long, you know.
Which one of the limbs is the real one?
His aiming hand is what I figured.
Oh, that's the one. Okay.
So both of it, you don't really need your legs. It's fine. You can just kind of scuttle along on prosthetics. And then whatever one pulls the trigger, I figured is, you can make that, prosthetic. But the one that aims the firearm.
Okay.
So he carries a blunderbuss for short range combat and a rifle for long range combat and a dog slicer for really close range combat.
Oh, Reggie.
Yeah, and I think Reggie's definitely looking for a payday at first.
Yeah.
He sees this rich benefactor as a ticket to the next hunt, right?
Oh, yes. Well, Fabulous Rich Man will pay very well. Or
Yes.
he will at least tell you that he will pay very well.
How is Reggie going to handle the news that that the rich guy wants to burn things? Is he going to be like, wait?
Well, I think Reggie's a conservationist, right?
Okay,
I think Reggie's the kind of goblin that understands if you get rid of, if you kill the goose, there's no more golden eggs. So
That's fair.
Yeah, we go out and we do our thing and we hunt the megafauna and we kill the frog. What are they called? The
froghemoths.
Yeah, we go hunt froghemoths occasionally, but we can't completely destroy the city because that would ruin, his big game hunting business.
That's fair.
There you go. Reggie's pragmatic.
Yeah, Reggie understands the circle of life. You gotta keep everything in balance.
Okay.
And also maybe he can steal that rich man's money. Maybe he can do that
There's always
too.
a backup plan.
I like it. Cool. I think that fits pretty well.
All right, well, that's our fun adventure to Ice Stair, which I just really got excited about when I was reading about it. So I was like, I don't know. We're definitely going to go here for this.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I believe that brings us to rating the realm of the Mammoth Lords. And obviously we have to do this out of 5 woolly mammoths.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I mean, if you're into the cold, I'd probably give this one like a 4. I don't know.
I think I'm a 4. I want to go see the giant ice staircase and see the crown of the world and see some woolly mammoths and stuff.
Yeah, this kind of has vibes of just traveling through I know we have international listeners that are not US based, but if you just go to the middle of the United States into the country area, the Rockies, it's just beautiful land and creatures and it's dangerous, but
or northern Canada where it's cold.
That's probably better. Yeah,
Northern
probably better
Canada,
one.
Yeah. I mean, seems like
Which I think we explicitly said in our last episode that we didn't want to go to northern Canada.
And now we're like, actually, it's a 4.
I like the cold. I mean, I think this would be really cool. I would totally go here and see the sights and travel around with a tribe for a while.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
I think
cool.
that'd be really cool. I think 4 is good for me.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like there's strong immediate danger. Obviously everywhere in Avestan there's going to be some amount of possible danger, but it doesn't feel like it's the place that you drop into and then everybody wants to murder you.
I feel with a good guide you're pretty solid.
Yeah.
You're not going to be the idiot just walking around.
No, we're going to hire Reggie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to hire Reggie. He carries trip mines with him.
We're going to hire someone else.
Even Jurassic Park. I get Jurassic Park vibes. At least the first part of Jurassic Park. Where, the gates open and it's beautiful, not the getting eaten part.
That's fair.
Although I'm sure that's a component.
Yeah,
We're going to leave before the getting eating part.
Yeah, that's the hope.
So 4 woolly mammoths.
All right. Well, thank you to all of our listeners. Hopefully you're enjoying learning about all of these fun, new, fabulous places. If you are, please tell your friends, like us on all of the platforms.
We're really good at
On
this.
the Instagram.
Look,
We're really good at those guys.
I'm not even on Reddit. I can't even.
Sam's like, what are the socials?
And I only use Reddit. I'm not on. Yeah, we make it work.
That's fair.
But anyway, because we're all old, it's fine. You can find us by email at tabletoptravelguidepodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram that we're bad at because, again, we're old. I don't know.
I think we're just bad at Instagram. We're working on it.
We like the media where you talk to people, aka podcasts. We're really bad at
we're good at exactly one
pictures
thing.
and messages.
Only the podcast.
If you send us, a smoke signal, we'll get it in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, hit us a carrier pigeon if you want it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love to get feedback via pigeon. Anyway, we also have a regular website as well, tabletoptravelguide.com, where Ryan does put stuff up on the website.
I do make an attempt. It's not...
And we will again add where exactly we are on the maps for each episode. So if you're, we describe it maybe adequately, but if you want to see exactly where we're at in relation to other places, we'll put up some maps.
I'll put like a running map of like all the places we've gone, and then I'll like retroactively update it so you can follow the tabletop travel guide path.
Yeah,
that's not a
bad
thing to make. Yeah,
good. Yeah, we'll do that.
All right. So we're working on it. Continuous improvement over here for us. But anyway, we will see everybody for our next stop in the journey. And until then, happy travels.